Chapter 2, Sectors of the Indian Economy, Class 10. Let us look at these pictures. You will find that people are engaged in various economic activities. Some of these are activities producing goods, some others are producing services. These activities are happening around us every minute, even as we speak. How do we understand these activities? One way of doing this is to group them, classify them, using some important criterion. These groups are called as sector. There are many activities that are undertaken by directly using natural resources. Take, for example, the cultivation of cotton. It takes place within a crop season. For the growth of the cotton plant, we depend mainly but not entirely on natural factors like rainfall, sunshine, and climate. The product of this activity, cotton, is a natural product. Similarly, in the case of an activity like dairy, we are dependent on the biological process of the animals and availability of fodder, etc. The product here, milk, also is natural product. Similarly, minerals and ores are also natural products. When we produce a good by exploiting natural resources, it is an activity of the primary sector. Why primary? This is because it forms the base for all other products that we subsequently make. Since most of the natural products we get are from agriculture, dairy, fishing, forestry, this sector is also called agriculture and related sector. The secondary sector covers activities in which natural products are changed in other forms through ways of manufacturing that we associate with industrial activity. It is the next step after primary. The product is not produced by nature but has to be made, and therefore some process of manufacturing is essential. This could be in a factory, a workshop, or at home. For example, using cotton fiber from the plant, we spin yarn and weave cloth. Using sugar cane as a raw material, we make sugar or gur. We convert earth into bricks and use bricks to make houses and buildings. Since this sector gradually became associated with the different kinds of industries that came up, it is also called as industrial sector. After the primary and secondary, there is a third category of activities that falls under tertiary sector and is different from the above two. These are activities that help in the development of the primary and secondary sectors. These activities by themselves do not produce a good, but they are an aid or a support for the production process. For example, goods that are produced in the primary or secondary sector would need to be transported by trucks or trains and then sold in wholesale and retail shops. At times, it may be necessary to store these in godowns. We also may need to talk to others over telephone or send letters, communication, or borrow money from banking to help production and trade. Transport, storage, communication, banking, trade are some examples of tertiary activities. Since these activities generate services, red color, black hair, then goods, the tertiary sector is also called the service sector. Service sector also includes some essential services that may not directly help in the production of goods. For example, we require teachers, doctors, and those who provide personal services such as washermen, barbers, cobblers, lawyers, and people to do, to do the administrative and accounting works. In recent times, certain new services based on information technology such as internet cafe, ATM booths, call centers, software companies, etc. have become important. Comparing the three sectors, the various production activities in the primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors produce a very large number of goods and services. Also, the three sectors have a large number of people working in them to produce these goods and services. The next step, therefore, is to see how much goods and services are produced and how many people work in each sector. In an economy, there could be one or more sectors which are dominant in terms of total production and employment, while other sectors are relatively small in size. How do we count the various goods and services and know the total production in each sector? With so many thousands of goods and services produced, you might think this is an impossible task. Not only would the task be enormous, you might also wonder how we can add up cars and computers and nails and furniture. It won't make sense. You are right in thinking so. To get around this problem, economists suggest that the values of goods and services should be used rather than adding up the actual numbers. For example, if 10,000 kgs of wheat is sold at rupees 8 per kg, the value of wheat will be rupees 80,000. The value of 5,000 coconuts at rupees 10 per coconut will be rupees 50,000. Similarly, the value of goods and services in these three sectors are calculated and then added up. Remember, there is one precaution one has to take. Not every good or service that is produced and sold needs to be counted. It makes sense only to include the final goods and services. Take for instance a farmer who sells wheat into a flour for rupees 8 per kg. The mill grinds the wheat and sells the flour to a biscuit company for rupees 10 per kg. The biscuit company uses the flour and things such as sugar and oil to make 4 packets of biscuits. It sells biscuits in the market to the consumers for rupees 60, rupees 15 per packet. Biscuits are the final goods, that is goods that reach the consumers. Why are the only final goods and services counted? In contrast to final goods, goods such as wheat and the wheat flour in this example are intermediate goods. Intermediate goods are used by in producing final and goods services. The value of final goods already includes the value of all the intermediate goods that are used in making the final good. Hence, the value of rupees 60 for the biscuits final good already includes the value of flour rupees 10. Similarly, the value of all other intermediate goods would have been included. To count the value of the flour and wheat separately is therefore not correct, because then we would be counting the value of the same things a number of times. First as wheat, then as flour, and finally as biscuit. The value of final goods and services produced in each sector during a particular year provides the total production of the sector for that year, and the sum of production in the three sectors gives what is called the gross domestic product of a country, or a GDP. It is the value of all final goods and services produced within a country during a particular year. GDP shows how big the economy is. In India, the mammoth task of measuring GDP is taken on by a central government ministry. The ministry, with the help of various government departments of all the Indian states and union territories, collects the information relating to total volume of goods and services and their prices, and then estimates the GDP. Historical change in sectors. Generally, it has been noted from the histories of many now developed countries that at initial stages of development, primary sector was the most important sector of economic activity. As the methods of farming changed and agriculture sector began to prosper, it produced much more food than before. Many people could now take up other activities. There were increasing number of craftsmen, person and traders. Buying and selling activities increased many times. Besides, there were also transporters, administrators, army, etc. However, at this stage, most of the goods produced were natural products from the primary sector, and most people were also employed in this sector. Over a long time, more than 100 years, and especially because new methods of manufacturing were introduced, factories came up and started expanding. Those people who had earlier worked on farms now began to work in factories in large numbers. They were forced to do so, as you read in history chapters. People began to use many more goods than were produced in factories at cheap rates. secondary sector gradually became the most important in total production and employment. Hence, over time, a shift had taken place. This means that the importance of the sectors had changed. In the past 100 years, there has been a further shift from secondary to tertiary sector in developed countries. The service sector has become the most important in terms of total production. Most of the working people are also employed in the service sector. This is the general pattern observed in the developed countries. What is the total production and employment in the three sectors in India? Over the years, have there been change similar to the pattern observed for the all developed countries? We shall see in the next section. Primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors in India. Graph 1 shows the production of goods and services in the three sectors. This is shown for 2 years 1973, 1974, and 2013 and 2014. You can also see how the total production has grown over the 40 years. Rising importance of the tertiary sector in production. Over the 40 years between 1973 and 1974 and 2013 and 2014, while production in all these three sectors has increased, it has increased the most in the tertiary sector. As a result, in the year 2013-14, the tertiary sector has emerged as the largest producing sector in India, replacing the primary sector. Why is the tertiary sector becoming so important in India? There could be several reasons. First, in any country, several services such as hospitals, educational institutions, post and telegraph services, police stations, courts, village administrative offices, municipal corporations, defense, transport, banks, insurance companies, etc. are required. This can be considered as basic services. In a developing country, the government has to take responsibility for the provision of these services. Second, the development of agriculture and industry leads to the development of services such as transport, trade, storage, and the like, as we all have already seen. Greater the development of the primary and secondary sectors, more would be the demand for such services. Third, as income levels rise, certain sections of people start demanding many more services like eating out, tourism, shopping, private hospitals, private schools, professional training, etc. You can see this change quite sharply in cities, especially in big cities. Fourth, over the past decade or so, certain new services such as those based on information and communication technology have become important and essential. The production of these services has been rising rapidly. In chapter 4, we shall see examples of these new services and the reasons for their expansion. However, you must remember that not all of the service sector is growing equally well. Service sector in India employs many different kinds of people. At one end, there are a limited number of services that employ highly skilled and educated workers. At the other end, there are a very large number of workers engaged in services such as small shopkeepers, repair persons, transport persons, etc. These people barely manage to earn a living, and yet they perform these services because no alternative opportunities for work are available to them. Hence, only a part of this sector is growing in importance. Thank you for seeing.